Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Amberly, and I am a Special Committee Alumni Chair. We're here to talk to four of our leaders from UT Lions to discuss their thoughts and their experiences with Lions Club. Jiho, would you like to get us started?
Thanks, Amberly. My name is Jiho Kang, and I was a charter president of the Lions Club at the University of Texas from the year 2012 to 2013. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how we got started as a club and how we kind of got our band together and got in a group. So my journey with Lions actually started in 2009. It's been crazy 10 years, but it started with chartering a Leo club in high school. We wanted to create a club that was solely focused for service. And I was in the Leo club for about 2 years. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, but mainly I made a lot of great friends and wanted to create that atmosphere back at the university where I was going to school. So in the fall of 2011, I contacted the Founders Club in Austin, and under the guidance of JP Kirksey, Wayne Orlowski, and Leonor Faria, we began to come up with this idea of creating a Lions Club at the University of Texas at Austin. Luckily, our mentors gave us as much guidance as we needed and as much freedom as we wanted. So we were given free rein to kind of do what we want to do and think creatively. So to give you a brief history about Lions at UT, there was a Lions Club at the University of Texas a few years before I started going to school, and unfortunately, that club only lasted for about a year. So in spring 2012, we started with an interest meeting to see who would be interested in creating this volunteering club from scratch in the fall. I think in our first couple interest meetings, we only had a total of about 15 people show up. Out of those 15, probably about 10 of us joined. And out of those 10, only 6 of us were there to kick it off in the fall. But we were there to create a club that's focused on service. And we knew this was going to work because we've heard time and time again from people and like organizations that we were with before that they wanted something that they could do that where they're more passionate about and actually give back to the community that they love. So we also wanted to create a club that was also a way for people to learn about Lions, because up to this point, the only Lions Club that people knew about at UT was the Lion Dancing Club. And we got a lot of questions from that. Even after they quit college, we wanted a club where people would remember the experiences that they've had, and they know that Lions is forever. You can leave and you can come back to it, and it's not going anywhere, and there's going to be a Lions wherever you are, anywhere in the world. So the first year was all about setting the foundation. We wanted to create a family environment where it's not just about like you do your job and you leave, but you actually want to hang out with these people and want to learn more about them, actually make lifelong relationships. So it was all about setting that foundation. So as we said, the 10 of us that joined, we were in a dark, dingy room for about 6 weeks revising the Constitution to make it fit so that it made sense in a university context. And after revising and reading the Constitution from back to back, we wanted to make sure there was no violation from our part in branding, color, naming. We spoke with the university multiple times because the University of Texas had a lot of strict regulations when it came to that. We also wanted to make sure we had no problems whatsoever, so that also meant no hazing and no alcohol, zero tolerance on that. In fact, we got so kind of paranoid about that. I remember where you'll hear from Josh later, who was our membership director at the time. We were talking to one of our colleagues, and we had this game up on stage, and he was like, this can count as a form of hazing, right? And we immediately stopped it there. So we wanted to make sure we had that strict discipline that would make sure that we have a lasting club in our university that doesn't run into any problems. But that also meant that having this structure allowed us to be very entrepreneurial and make a lot of mistakes and try anything that we can and kind of navigate between those lines. We literally tried everything we could for recruiting, for any kind of programming, but let's say for instance, recruiting, whenever we did tabling this one year in front of the largest dorm, in one of the largest dorms in the US, they only allowed one table to be there. So I remember I would spend the night at 10 p.m. wearing my parka and sleeping on the floor while one of our officers was sleeping in my dorm room. And then about 6 a.m. we would switch spots to make sure that we had that spot. We have more of these crazy stories where we went from table to table in our school cafeteria trying to see if people would be interested in our club. We also did this thing where we got umbrellas on a rainy day to try to walk people down as long as they'd be willing to hear about Lions. But most of that got really started off in the summer when our university allowed organizations to table. I remember Josh, me, and Alex was the president after me. We spent what the time we should go in class recruiting and like yelling and trying to get people to join and excited about the club, and none of them heard about it. But then we had our first meeting and we had a turnout of around like 200 people that first meeting. But we had two first meetings. So we had 200 people turn out one meeting, we had another 200 people turn out the next meeting. And we knew that this was start of something very special, something that resonates with university students. A lot of people ask, like, how do you get a good foundation started? Like, how do you get to that point where you can make a self-sustaining club? And honestly, it was a lot of sacrifice on the ends of not only the officers, but the members as well. But when we talk about the officers, I remember we would spend like 2 to 3 hours on average on a Monday night just to get our program straight, just so we could have our executive meetings. I know a lot of us, we had a lot of personal relationship obstacles that we had to overcome. We had to learn how to manage our time. We should have gotten more sleep than we actually did. And I'm sure a lot of us felt a bit of a suffering in our grades as well. But at the end of the day, it was all worth it because the experiences that I've had in Lions, the experiences that I'm sure my colleagues have had, were incredible moments that I would never be able to recreate, and we will never be able to really understand how special that meant to us unless we actually went through that. I think the biggest part, though, of our club was the fact that culture was key. And we created a club where it's not just people out there and just presenting to people, but it was a way that we as officers could interact, or we as leaders could interact with our members. We made sure that whenever we had board of directors, that all of them are out there in the crowd speaking to people, speaking to new people, to make sure that they, like, if they're new to the club, if it's their first time visiting, that they feel welcome. Even our leadership structure, we had each officer in charge of a committee, but it was very, very flat where anybody could come to the exec meetings. All our members could come to the exec meetings. Anybody can speak up, and we would go with that idea. We would tell people who wanted to join our club, hey, if you're passionate about something, there is a place for you. If you want to be a leader, be a leader. If you want to if you just want to support, be a supporter. But if you want to be a leader, there's something you're passionate about. If you want to send shoes to orphan children in Korea, make a special committee. If you want to make an orchestra, make a special committee. We had an orchestra. We had a theater club that was very short-lived. We also had a micro farm. We've done international relations. We sent one of our UT Lions abroad. We have so many special committees that was really brought out because we created a platform where people can really express themselves and really pursue their passion and be a leader if they really wanted to be. But unfortunately, that also means that this culture can also translate towards the other side as well, because I remember our first year, we made a lot of mistakes as well. One of those mistakes was not appreciating our administrative committee as much as we should have. And there was a slight rift there, and we felt that rift even years on end. So setting a firm foundation, a firm culture was key. And we actually felt that a couple of years in when we had this one year where our chief officer wasn't as active as she should have been, but all the other officers, all the other committee heads were there to help pick up some of the administrative burden that was there. And due to that, we grew out stronger. We came out stronger. We've done a lot of great things since then. And I think the club now, I'm sure Z and Darren can tell you more about it, but our club has evolved, but still kept some of that same entrepreneurial spirit and same culture that we started off with. I remember Josh and I went to a banquet, one of our spring banquets a couple of years after we graduated. We sat there, we were invited as speakers, and we sat there, we're looking around and just listening to the conversations and just seeing what happened throughout the year. We were like amazed because I think this was like 4 years in, but we were amazed because the people that we see around us are completely different, but the experiences that they have felt the same. It felt like home, just with different people, but it still felt like one family. And we're hoping that if you if you in your district decide to come create a Lions Club, or if you know someone who wants to create a Lions Club, that we encourage you to mentor them and help them to do this, because this is going to be the most fantastic, the most meaningful thing one of the most meaningful things that they've ever done in their lives. So thank you. And Jamberly, if you'd like to introduce our next guest.
Thank you. So we would like to introduce our panelists. We have Darren Tan, Josh Yap, Z Hussein, and of course Ziho. Could you guys introduce yourselves, please? Starting with Darren.
Yeah, my name is Darren Tan. I was the 4th president for the UT Lions Club. I currently work as a controls engineer at a company called SpaceX, so living out here in Los Angeles, California. I inherited a lot of the club after a lot of the foundation has been set by Jiho and Josh. So we really got to not necessarily building a lot of the groundwork and the infrastructure, but we got to really expand and got to reap a lot of the benefits from that strong foundation and really push the club over to its next bigger and better leaps forward. We had over something like 3,000 and almost 4,000 service hours by all our members throughout the years. So it was a really great opportunity to really give back to the community, first of all, build a great family with my fellow Lions, friends, officers, and really great place for me as a college student to really explore what's possible with just a group of friends who have very similar interests.
Thank you. Josh, could you go next, please?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Josh Yap. I was the charter membership director of the UT Lions Club. I'm currently a data engineer here in Austin at a startup called Civitas Learning. I've graduated class of 2015, so it's been a few years, but I was there with Lions Club at UT right at the start. Gio and I have tons of memories, and we could talk your ear off all day about them. But Lions Club holds a really special place in my heart because it changed so much of my life in college, and it still impacts me all the time, years later. And I think it's really powerful to see, how much these little things you do, these habits you build, the people you're associating yourself with and the friends you're making, how much impact that can have in your life. And I feel like it really empowered me to make impacts on other people's lives. So I'd love to talk to you more about it. I'm sure we'll get more into it throughout the call.
Thank you, Josh. Z, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Z Hussein. I'm the current president of Lions Club. So upon graduation this May, I'll be working as a DevOps engineer here in Austin, Texas. I could say so much about my experiences with Lions Club over the past 3 years, but I think everyone mostly said it best, that people come to Lions Club for the service and then stay for the people. It's really the most serendipitous thing that I've ever been a part of, where you can meet someone one day and then just because you're both, into going to the animal shelter and walking the dogs there, and then 4 years later you're, attending their wedding or, traveling with them. And it's really just incredible to see all of the relationships and all of the impact that Lions has brought to not only the Austin community, but truly the international community, with how much we do and everything that we've accomplished. Hearing Gio talk about the stories from, the charter year, and just looking at the club in its current state and all that we've accomplished, since the inception, all of the growth, and maintaining all of the traditions. It's really something special to see that carry over generations.
Thank you, Z. Now we are going to get into the questions with our panel. First up, I'm going to ask, what is it that initially attracted you to the university club? We can start with Ji-Ho.
Yeah, thanks, Amberly. So this is a loaded question for me because initially what attracted me to the university club was the fact that the university club wasn't there. So it was like a blue ocean opportunity where we can create we had our own space to do whatever we want. And I think that that entrepreneurial spirit, as we said before, was something that I really wanted and I really resonated with. But also I wanted to create a space where people hear about Lions and frankly, like understand how much Lions can not only mean for me, but for everyone else who comes through those doors. I mean, we started off as a club where people thought we were the Lion Dancing Club, and now we're at a point where counselors are recommending some people to go check out Lions Club at the university, and that blows my mind where it could get to the point where it really resonates with some of these like students that just want to give back to the community, and with that actually just be part of a community. So that I think was one of the most like drawing things that really brought me into the club.
Thank you. Darren, would you like to answer as well?
Yeah. As Z said earlier, like you come for the service, but you stay for the friends, and the connections that you made. Really, volunteering with Lions Club has built a really close set of friends and family for me, and really helped me through some of my toughest times, but also showed me how much we can do together. So I really like the community and the culture that we've built together, and I think that's one of the most attractive parts of this club, where there are 7 different other large volunteering organizations. Like, this is the one that drew me in because of the community.
Thank you, Darren. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like Jiho, when I was getting involved in Lions, there wasn't a club that was active at UT at the time. And like Darren mentioned, there's tons of service organizations at UT. There's tons of student organizations in general, hundreds of them. And so what kind of drew me into Lions Club, I remember like it was yesterday, was that I talked to Jiho about it. He asked me to get involved, and we kind of discussed it back and forth because we were friends already. And I remember that night I called my parents just to tell them, kind of what I was up to in college and how things were going. And I told them that I'm checking out this thing called Lions Club. And I had never talked to them about it before, but they told me, oh yeah, we were in that in Malaysia when we were in high school. 30 years ago, in these little tiny farm villages in Malaysia. And I thought that was the craziest thing because I'd never heard of this. My parents had never talked to me about it ever. And here it was spanning a full generation in my family. And, I talked to my parents more about it, and it was really crazy how much it impacted them growing up. And I was just super enticed to learn more about it. And then also seeing how some of these other student organizations were running, I felt like there were a lot of things that people could do better, or maybe people were straying from, the real missions of the organizations. And I wanted to be on the ground floor of some place that was going to, empower me to make those changes that I wanted to see going on in the world. And Lions Club was definitely that vehicle to, really go out and make impact. Because I think when you're in college, you always have these grand visions of what you want to do, but you need to find a way to actually get from A to B. And that's really what Lions Club was for me.
Thank you, Josh. Dee?
I was actually a transfer student when I came to UT, so I didn't really know anything about Lions Club like Darren, but it was a coincidence where I actually went to high school with Darren and kind of heard about Lions Club through his Facebook post. So when I got tabled, it was like a familiar thing. But I was still kind of on the fence, and I showed up to a general meeting, and like Jiho said, it was the BOD kind of went out and made sure to talk to people that were brand new, and I hadn't even been to a service event, but people actually remembered my name from tabling, and I really couldn't believe it that everyone seemed to know each other, and everyone seemed to be to have this bond that was really kind of special and not really existed somewhere else. And then I sat through the general meeting, and there was just so many different opportunities and types of service. No matter what you were passionate about, what kind of service that you wanted to accomplish in your time at UT, there was really, really something for everyone, whether that was sustainability, whether that was helping at the homeless community, no matter what it was, helping animals, anything. There was really a place for you at Lions, no matter what community service you wanted to do. And that was something that really appealed to me, just as someone that wanted to volunteer.
Thank you. So our next question for everyone, what is it that you personally get out of being in Lions Club? Can we start with Zico?
Yeah. So there's this old theory that there's no such thing as doing something for free, right? Whenever you go volunteer, we volunteer a lot of the times and we get a nice warm fuzzy feeling, and a lot of us do that for the warm fuzzy feelings. But I do think that's an important part of like driving us to be part of Lions, is the fact that whenever you go volunteer, when you go help out people, then you get a sense of that you're part of that community. And I remember that when I was a Leo in high school, I volunteered for the first time with the older Lions Club, and these older gentlemen who are like 60, 70 years old were out there in the blazing Texas sun at 100-something degrees, and they're more active than we will ever be. And that passion is something that fuels a lot of us who are part of this club. But also in terms of our club as a whole, it's the community. It's watching it grow, watching all these great ideas that so many people have, and actually building off of those ideas and trying something new and actually making lifelong friends is amazing. Josh and I actually attended a wedding recently. Actually, Darian, Josh, and I attended a wedding recently where we were part of the bridal and the groom's party. But they were two Lions that met at the charter year. It was our charter vice president, the president, and a second president, so the year after us. So it's crazy that these relationships really are forever. And sometimes it goes that whole route where people are going to get married and they're your best friends that are going to get married. And you met them by volunteering with them, like actually working with them side by side. So.
Thank you. Darren, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so we've spoken a lot about the community that we've built at our own Lions Club, but what really makes me really proud to be a Lion is the global aspect of it, and we have something so special to ourselves, to myself, of what we've built in our community. But every time I drive by, I travel a lot for work, so I go to these small towns, I do road trips, and I see the Lion sign everywhere at the entrance of every small city, and it makes me feel special, like I'm part of this global effort. I think it's a really cool and very rewarding aspect of being a Lion.
Thank you. Josh?
I'm definitely, all on board with everything that Jiho and Darren, and I'm sure what Z will say as well. But I think the biggest thing I get out of being a Lion is just that I know whenever I go to any kind of Lion event or I run in or meet a Lion randomly, I'm meeting someone that has a similar mindset to me and someone that's, really looking to make good in the world. And spending time with people like that, interacting with them and working alongside them, I found that it really grounds me. Because it's really easy to get swept up in all the different things going on today, or social media or work or college, school. But at the end of the day, that's not the measure of your impact on the world. And I think talking with these people and having these people around you really kind of brings you back into the bigger picture and helps you understand, there's more to your life and what you're doing than just the little tiny things or studying for this test or, getting that report due at work. And I think going back there'll be long periods of time where I don't do any Lions activities. And then once I go back to that one, it's such a refreshing experience, and it really kind of puts everything back in perspective. So it's a huge deal for me, and I think it's probably not an uncommon experience.
Thank you. Z, as a current member, what do you personally get out of Lions Club?
I feel like I could talk for hours about everything that Lions Club has done for me. And I think most people that are in the club right now would agree that their college experience wouldn't be nearly the same and wouldn't be nearly as special if they hadn't found Lions Club. I think what all my colleagues said, rings true just as much as it does now, or it did then as it does now. For example, when we went to Texas Lions Camp, we were there with two other schools. We were there with Texas State and A&M, who had much smaller Lions Club, but the energy in the community was still there. Everyone was there for the same purpose, and it was to help this amazing community that was impacting thousands of children's lives. And we were all sitting around the campfire. We were strangers 2 hours prior, but this bond that Lions Clubs creates, it's so real, and it's so potent. No matter where you go, no matter who you're meeting, Lions Club really brings out the best in people and really brings the best people to Lions. So it's indescribable, the kind of energy that it creates.
Thank you, Z. Would you describe some service projects and fundraisers that the club partakes in currently?
Absolutely. So we've done quite a few service events this semester. Actually, one is coming up this weekend called Hope for the Homeless. This is something that was started a while back by our legacy committee that's continuing on today. So basically, the idea behind Hope for the Homeless is that the homelessness is increasing so much every year in Austin, Texas. So basically, the idea was to kind of go out and create care packages full of necessities and things that homeless people might not get from people, like things like deodorant and blankets and toothbrushes, toothpaste, things that'll assist them in their daily lives, and actually create these care packages and go out into the Austin community and sit down with the homeless community and actually talk to them, hear their stories. And this is one of my favorite events, and I will never miss it, just because it's so crazy that here at UT we walk by homeless people every day and don't really realize all of them have these different experiences, and getting to sit down and really talk with them and really hear about where they came from. There's a man named David who's actually at a UT alumni who's looking to go back to school, and it's really amazing to hear all of these things that you wouldn't normally hear if it weren't for Lions Club and for Hope for the Homeless. We also have this event called CBI, which is short for community-based instruction. It's basically an event that was started by one of our past president, Tina Nguyen. It's an event where Lions Club basically hosts a prom for special needs children all around Austin ISD, and they're able to come for one night, and it's basically just a prom dance built from the ground up just for these kids that don't really have the option to go to prom, whether they be because of medical reasons, or they don't want to, or they'll feel left out, or things like that. This is really a night for them just to dance dance as much as they want and be around people that are going to be supporting them, dance with their parents, and really just like a night to feel absolutely normal in a place where they might not usually, as unfortunate as it is. We also have different types of sustainability events that Green Team puts on, and like I said before, it's just there's so many different types of events that UT Lions Clubs hosts that it's really hard to describe them all. I could sit here for hours, but those are two of the really impactful events I think that we do and are important to me.
Thank you. Darren, can you explain how a campus club operates differently?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is how just college semesters work, and so each student is there for usually 4 years at a college. So you constantly get new members, and you constantly always have to keep in pace with the blazing fast cycle of how like colleges generally operate. So we go from recruiting new members straight into officer elections, straight into, Thanksgiving. And then once we hit Thanksgiving, right after that, you have all your holidays. So we get slammed with a bunch of these kind of tight deadlines. It's hard to fit all the service events that we really want, or hard to fit all the events that we really want to get in. So that really guides a lot of the decisions that we had to make on which service events to do. How do we allocate time to these kinds of projects? Those kinds of challenges are something that you'll see no matter what college you go to. That I think is really important when setting up the foundation of how you want to run the campus club slightly differently than how you would with the adult Lions Club.
Thank you. Jiho, can you explain how you recruit new members efficiently?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we heard from time and time and time again from our members were the fact that they joined the club because they sat down, someone came to speak to them, and turns out they were a leader in the club. And the fact that we treated new members like the fact that they're already part of our family, and the fact that we're not talking to them, we're talking with them, I think that helped a lot of people really, I think that really resonated with people who came through those doors. Getting those people through the doors to begin with, that was another story where we would, I think we mentioned it earlier, we tried all different sorts of ways to just get people to learn about Lions. And I'm sure, I love Josh telling this story, and I'll defer to him later, but there's this one story about experiences we had while we were flyering, and we just had so many crazy experiences where we're just trying to spread the word out there. For every one Lion or every one Lion who joined our club, there's probably 10 people who came through our interest meeting, and there's probably another 40 or 50 who we fired to. And at I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, it came out to be somewhat of a numbers game that just happens to have a lot of people that are very passionate about it.
Thank you, Jiho. Josh, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I could definitely talk about this topic all day. I like to joke that since I was the charter membership director, I set the tone for how this was all going to go with recruiting at UT. But I think what's really cool about Lions is that there's a very clear, finite mission of what we're trying to accomplish, and it's something that really transcends, basically everything. You're not really going to run into people that aren't willing to give back or help out or make a positive impact on the world, especially in college. And that's something that everyone has in common. There's tons of different service organizations. There's tons of different student clubs and things you could be doing with your time. But this is something that I think everyone could find value in. And I think that's a super powerful tool for getting people in the door and starting that conversation about why Lions Club is so amazing and how they can fit in. And I remember that when we first started, like Gio mentioned, there was probably 6 to 10 of us in a room, and before the end of the first year, we had, active student counts of over 100 members. And I think I remember we peaked out at 300 or 400 members in our first couple interest meetings, which was crazy because we never expected that type of explosive growth. And I think a big part of that is because it wasn't just me and the other officers recruiting. It really was every single member of the club felt like they were part of the club. They felt like they were part of something bigger. And they felt like it was something that, they wanted to share with other people. They felt like it was so positive that they didn't want to just keep it to themselves. And that's really what keeps Lions Club going year to year. Because, it's true. College is a finite thing also. You're only going to be there for 4 or 5, maybe 6 years. And then after that, you're going to graduate, and then you have to start looking to adult Lions clubs. So once you're recruiting, once you become an officer, or once you're just involved in the club, you already are starting to think about what's going to happen next year. And that's why the people you recruit and the culture you set is so important, because that all starts kind of at the top and with the members and how everyone carries themselves and how they operate. And that will just go on year in, year in, year in. And that's what keeps the club alive. I think when the club at UT kind of petered out after a year, the original one, that's probably where their issues started and ended, because they didn't have a very strong culture. So we were very careful to be, super stringent on what we wanted to do and the culture we wanted to set. And I think that's why even, 6, 7, 8 years later on, that the club is so strong today, and I can't see it being any weaker going forward. I think we're just going to keep getting better and better.
Thank you, Josh. With that being said, can you explain what effective relationships between adult Lions and students look like?
Yeah, sure. That's a really interesting one, because I think it really depends on kind of your specific university or the adult Lions clubs in your area. We were really lucky here in Austin to have multiple adult Lions clubs, just a few minutes away from our campus, and tons of people that were willing and excited about what we were doing. They all wanted to be involved. They all wanted to help us. We had so many great resources. But the thing is that between school and, running your own Lions Club on campus, it's really tough to keep track of all these other things that are going on outside of your little bubble. And that's why I think it really is up to leadership and chairs and, the super involved members of the club to foster those relationships with the adult Lions, because if they don't do that, then, it's easy for everyone else to kind of forget that that's even a thing. And the adults Lions clubs are such a great resource because, that's kind of the example we're following. Whenever we graduate, whenever we're done with our impact here on campus, that's where we'll be going next to get involved in these adult Lions clubs and Lions clubs all over the world. So that's why I think a big part of that is just you have to make the extra effort to be involved with adult Lions clubs and to make those connections, because if you don't, you're just going to kind of get siloed off on campus, which isn't bad, but you can really get so much more done if you really tap into all the resources and help you have around you. And I think even if you don't have a Lions club near you in your city or something like that, you can just look around, and I'm sure you can find tons of resources online or through Lions Club International. There's so many different ways to do it. I remember we actually had a sister club in France, I believe. And so there's lots of different ways where you can get involved with Lions clubs outside of, just what's going on in your own neighborhood. And I think that's a huge part of what makes Lions Club so special, is that we're so international and we have so many different great things going on that really transcend those little tiny boundaries.
Thank you, Josh. Darren, can you please explain how to handle officer transitions and long-term planning within the club?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the time constraints of a college, like a busy college semester, busy college year is very difficult. So at the very beginning, we met as our officers, our executive committee of about 5 to 6 officers, met together and really just set some high-level goals that we would bounce off ideas off of each other, so that it seemed reasonable, but still just a little bit of a stretch for us to be able to make it comfortably. So it kind of pushed us forward. So something we did was we set like service hour, a goal for service hours, and we had a little thermometer that would fill up in our slides every week about like how many service hours we've achieved. So something like that helped us keep track of our goals and really like show the general members that that what you're doing each weekend or each time you go and volunteer is making an impact to your community, but also like to like the club's identity of what their goals are. Talking about officer planning, transitions, it's really difficult because I know depending on the Lions clubs, different. Most of the adult Lions clubs that I've seen, they rotate a bunch of officers around, and usually, you'll have a president in one year, and then they'll switch around and become another officer a few years later. They stay in the club, but because of how university is in and out, your students come in and leave, they join other clubs, or they get busy with school. It's hard to get a lot of your officers to really stay for a really long time. So that transition is really, really important. And we try to first do training on kind of an everyday basis. You give as much of a stakehold to each of your chairs as possible, where each of them feels like they're involved and is making a viable impact. That lets them grow, so that when you're actually making that officer transition, they're already most of the way there. You just really need to give them passwords to your accounts or something like that. So training it constantly, and as an executive officer, showing leading by example is really important to get you most of the way there. Other than that, we usually try to write a user manual, certain things to keep track of. There are certain dates at UT where there are a lot of exams here, or make sure you book this event 3 months in advance because it fills up super fast. So we try to keep a running list of notes that we pass on year to year.
Thank you, Darren. Gio, then in addition to that, what would you say are the characteristics of a good leader within the club?
I think Darren mentioned a lot of great points, and I had some speaking notes about this, but listening to Darren talk made me realize that, wow, there's a lot of things that I don't remember about it, and there's a lot of things that are coming back. And one of those things is the fact that our club was a club from the house from up, where there's this house with a lot of little balloons, and where you need every single balloon to get up, but they're all going the same direction. And I remember some people would be like, why does your club have so many different chairs and positions out there? It's like you're just making a position. But honestly, it's yes, you can be a leader, but as being a good leader, you're also following all these other programs that are happening throughout the club as well. I think being a leader in the UT club and the campus club, in Lions Club specifically, means that you're serving your members. You're not just, your service projects aren't just about the community at that point. Your service projects is about making sure that your members have an outlet and have a platform for them to serve. And like Darren mentioned, we try to do a lot of these training programs from the beginning, where we would spend the first couple of weeks in the fall, talking about how there's these positions that we pre-populated, and we're like, okay, hey, come join these positions, apply for those positions, and they would join. And afterwards, the first semester or so, these new chairs would kind of learn those roles. And in the spring, it's kind of up to them. Like, they are really leading those roles so that they have that step to become officers if they want to be. And I think it's worth mentioning the difference between being a good leader versus being a good manager, because just because you're very good at managing people doesn't mean you're going to be a great leader, and just because you're a great leader doesn't mean you're going to be very good at managing people as well. So for instance, when I was president, I feel like I had a lot of lofty goals that Darren mentioned, a lot of these goals that just barely out there where you can reach them, but I had a lot of goals that we were never going to reach in the first place. And there was a lot of our officers who really brought that down to a more realistic perspective, because they were geniuses in that, and making sure that our scope is going to, I sound like a consultant though, like the scope is going to be in a way where the club can actually achieve it. And if there were these ideas that weren't ever going to work, we had great people who can tell us up front that, hey, that's not going to work. So, but we've also seen the vice versa happen, where we had some managers who would get more leadership position, but it just wasn't a position that felt too comfortable for them, where they can actually perform to their fullest potential. So I think identifying that and what you can really do and what you can really build on, and what you really want to build on in terms of like your characteristics, in terms of like how you want to be leading the club, I think that is very important, not only for the club itself, but also for personal growth.
Thank you, Jiho. Josh, can you explain what it's like establishing an identity on campus?
Yeah, sure. So as Gio was talking, I'm remembering all these other things as that came up during our first couple of years. And when he says that we were kind of like the house in Up, like all the balloons moving in the same direction, I think that is so spot on because Lions Club attracts a lot of people who have a lot of lofty ideas or a lot of ideas or goals on how they can, make a positive impact. But it's important to keep everyone moving in the same direction, or everyone on the same page, right? And I think what really ties all of us together in Lions Club is that we have the goal of, doing good in the world. And when you just keep that in the front of your mind the entire time, and everyone makes every decision for the club with that, at the forefront, I think that's where things really, we can really all make a big impact by coming together, because you'll see tons of different clubs and they'll have lots of different officers, and all these different officers kind of go in slightly different directions, and you miss out on a lot of those efficiencies and a lot of the potential teamwork that could be had. But what we did in Lions Club was, we were so focused on, we're just going to maximize what we can and make the biggest impact we can. That really made everything a lot easier in terms of figuring out what we were going to be like as a club, because we knew from the start that we wanted to do as much good as we could, and the way you do that is by getting as many people involved as you can. And so how we did that is we just made Lions Club a place that anyone could be welcome, a place for anyone. We took in anyone. If they didn't feel like they belonged somewhere else, we were happy to have them in Lions Club. And that was really our identity. It was just, if you care about service and that's really what you're most passionate about, Lions Club is the place to be. There's tons of different other service organizations, service fraternities, and things like that even, but those all have other motives and things that are going on besides just the main goal. And for us, it was really a single mission and a single idea in mind, and I think that is what our identity has been from the start, and I hope that's what it continues to be going forward. And when you really simplify it down like that, I think the problem becomes a lot more manageable, and it's not nearly as difficult as it could have been if you tried to keep shifting the goal lines, especially as officers change and school year changes and people go on winter break and things like that. So keeping it all simple and keeping the main goal in mind is, I think, what really helped us establish a strong identity and culture.
Thank you. Z, could you please explain communication tools between Lions Club members and officers?
Absolutely. I think this is something that's more logistical, but it's actually super important in terms of keeping our club going forward and everyone staying focused on what our goals are. So right now, our main form of communication is Slack, which is something that a lot of different companies use. Basically, Slack allows you to have a different channel for each committee that we have. So each core committee that we have in Lions and each special committee gets its own Slack channel. Our exec team has access to each one of those channels, and that kind of allows them to stay in the loop about what's going on for each committee. But at the same time, we also have public channels. So the public channels exist for each committee as well, and those kind of allow the committees to collaborate on different ideas. So for example, we have a promotions channel where membership and service and all the different special committees go in, and they can kind of post what they want, what kind of promotion they would like for their event coming up, and that really kind of keeps things organized. For example, if I need to refer back to a conversation, I can easily find it. I know which committee it was, I know when it happened, and I know if there was a Google Sheet or picture uploaded or something, I have exactly where that is. Another big tool that we use is Google Hangout, which coincidentally is what we're using right now. Like Darren said, a lot of the times over the summer, we are college, so everyone's going to go back home, everyone's going to be in different places. So Google Hangout is really important, especially in the summer planning, because how our club works basically is we get a great deal of planning done in the summer with our exec and small council team, so that when we do get a board of directors and chairs, early in the first semester, they don't really have to jump in right away and start planning events. They kind of have a couple events to get them comfortable and get them associated with how Lions Club works and how leading events works. So Google Hangouts has been an integral part of our summer planning process, and there are different couple tools here and there that we use as well, like shared Google Docs and things like that for meeting minutes. Of course, we'll go more into that when we talk about organization, I'm sure.
Thank you, Z. Could you please explain regarding the student body how you use cross collaborations across organizations to further engage them more?
Absolutely. I think something that's unique about college campus clubs is that we do have access to all of these different organizations around our campus, and that's something that adult Lions clubs can't really do, right? So for example, there are several different sustainability organizations like the UT Micro Farm, like the Yellow Bike Project, that we can go and we can collaborate with in order to get more people to not only know about Lions Club but just have a larger impact, which like Josh said is our main goal. We're here to serve. So that's something that's really special that only we can do. We can volunteer at these as different organizations and kind of promote service not only within our own club but within these other clubs as well. We've started something recently where if, say, for example, we can't do an event due to logistical issues or due to other reasons like having too many events on a weekend or anything, we can hand that off to another organization, and that service and that impact can still be made, and maybe inspire someone to do even more service if they ordinarily don't. Also, we are starting to do different collaborations. Like, for example, we recently had a Family Feud tournament style event with ABSA and AMSA, which was basically a fundraiser to raise money for NAMI, which is National Alliance Against Mental Illness. So that was this huge event that we had teams from all three of our organizations competing. And actually, when our general meeting came the following Tuesday, we had a couple people that came because of that event. They heard about Lions Club through that event and wanted to come check out the different service projects that we have. So I think it's a really important tool that can be used, especially when getting off the ground, for a campus club that can be kind of intimidating. So use the foundation that you have as a college organization and use your surrounding organizations.
Thank you, Z. Darren, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, one of my personal goals when I was president was to kind of help connect all the different campus clubs that were in our area. So in Austin, we have our UT Lions Club, and about 30 minutes west we have the San Marcos Texas State Lions, and then a little further to the south, there's the, what's that city called, Jiho? College Station, that's right, College Station. And there's also like Texas Tech. There's a bunch of different campus clubs around. So I was really trying to help connect all those Lions clubs together to get us into to do one big service event. So in Texas, there's something very special to myself and a lot of Lions. It's called the Texas Lions Camp. And so we organized a big weekend where we got 3 or 4 different Lions clubs. Well, actually, Texas Lions Camp organizes these big volunteering events where they get Texas Lions clubs from Texas all around the state to go volunteer there for about like 4 separate weekend events. So we collaborated with a bunch of different campus clubs to go all on the same weekend and just really connect. And it was a really great place to share ideas and to really see how each club was just slightly different, slightly unique, but still really serving that bigger goal. That was one of my favorite events to do, just to see how big of a reach we could achieve.
Thank you. Z, can you please explain the social and networking opportunities on campus, the campus club possesses versus adult Lions Club?
Absolutely. I think we kind of talked about this quite a bit, but all of the relationships that are formed in Lions Club are unlike anything else, and the kind of social opportunities that you get just by joining this service organization is really special, and it really brings people together in a way that isn't the norm. But I feel like we've kind of beaten that horse to death a little bit. But there are also like networking opportunities, absolutely. Like a special thing about college clubs is that we're all there to study something that we're most likely going to be doing in the future. So Lions Clubs has a great deal of computer science majors, pre-health, pre-med, pre-dent, pre-vet, things like that. And there's these opportunities for these upperclassmen that are kind of more experienced in what it's like to be a student in that major, to help the kind of students coming in, but as well as our alumni. So recently we have an alumni that is currently in med school. So he contacted us and we set up a seminar for students that are currently pre-med and kind of nervous and about the application process, about applying to med school. So that's just something really special about our campus club, and really any campus club that gets built. Everyone is there to study, but in turn you have this huge plethora of different majors and different opportunities for networking and learning. So it's really special.
Thank you guys so much for answering our questions. That is all we have for you today. Thank you for joining, everyone. We hope that this was a meaningful and informative webinar. Please keep in touch with us and check out our Facebook, Instagram, at atxcampuslions.com, and hook up.